Good evening. Today I'm going to be talking about 3 different video games and their 3 very different perspectives and representations of war and the military. I'm going to be talking about 2004's Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater, the 1999 DLC for Half-Life, Opposing Force, and Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019. Each game comes from a different context from when and where they were created, and this impacts how they represent the war and military, as well as the values they perpetuate in each game. Each game tackles the way they represent the military differently. Like, Metal Gear Solid was written by Hideo Kojima, a Japanese game developer, whereas Half-Life and Call of Duty were both made in America, with Call of Duty being heavily influenced by the real-life American military. The first game I will be talking about is Metal Gear Solid 3, a critically acclaimed title in the gaming world, and has become a cult classic among fans. Metal Gear Solid is a video game franchise released in the late 90s and early 2000s by the Japanese games company Konami Entertainment, and written and directed by Hideo Kojima, who has become quite the legendary figure in gaming spaces because of his work on the Metal Gear franchise, as well as his own personal projects like Death Stranding. The franchise as a whole critiques the American government and the military-industrial complex, and is extremely critical of nuclear warfare. The anti-nuclear approach is interesting given the relationship between America and Japan since World War II, and this would drastically impact how the American military is represented from a Japanese perspective. The main game in the franchise that I'm going to be focusing on is Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater, as I feel it encapsulates most of the values that the series wants to push, as well as it being a personal favourite of mine. Metal Gear Solid 3 released in 2004 and is a great example of anti-war commentary, and represents war and the military-industrial complex in a harsh but realistic way. Although the general audience rather widely accepts the values of the franchise, there are still quite a large minority of people who don't understand the anti-war and quite political messages the game and its director were trying to convey, and merely take the macho man war hero trope of the series at face value without looking any further.
I just hope I just hope they don't remake it and make it political, you know? Get out!
But most people do appreciate and understand Kojima's underlying anti-war messaging that the series is pushing. Kojima tells the story of military indoctrination and manipulation from the perspective of the victim, Snake. As the player, you see Snake's perspective and views change throughout the game, culminating in the final act of the game, in which Jack has to kill his adoptive mother, who was a triple agent that needed to die for America to win the Cold War or to prove a point. The lore gets really quite messy. The game is very critical of war, especially the American military.
She didn't betray the United States. No. Far from it. She was a hero who died for her country. She carried out her mission knowing full well what was going to happen. Self-sacrifice.
The military doesn't want Jack, they want Snake, a soulless puppet to do their dirty work. This is a clear reflection of Kojima's values and opinions on the military, not only being critical of the American army, but military all across the world and how they treat people. It's outright said in the game that war is just an arena for politicians. Okay, I swear that quote exists, but for the life of me, I could not find a clip of it anywhere. Right, it was in the game, take my word for it. I just felt like it was a really good quote that I should keep in, because it was really good, but I swear it was in the game. It is there, right? But there is not a single clip of it online. Just take my word for it, okay? The game actively shows the higher-ups of the military do not care about the impact they have on the people they are sending into battle.
Did you kill another one of the Cobras?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was the end. Good work. Now you won't have to deal with him later.
I guess so.
What's wrong?
It's nothing.
Surely you're not going to tell me you wanted to test your skills against a legendary sniper that even the boss respected?
No.
Snake, this isn't a contest or sport. This is war. I mean, what about this Eva? What are you planning to do with her?
I don't even trust her yet.
No, that's not what I mean. You can't let yourself get involved. This is a game of spy versus spy. She's using you just as much as you're using her. You've got to grab the initiative, and to do that, you have to get the upper hand in the relationship. That's what a spy is supposed to do.
Get the upper hand. I don't think I'm cut out for that mission.
Kojima is highly regarded in the gaming industry and has a lot of support for his projects, containing profound messaging, especially how his games deal with reality and the consequences of war, rather than just another mindless shooter game.
This is my world and you're just...
A great example comes when Snake is fighting one of the 6 members of the Cobra unit. The Cobra unit are the main bosses of the game and act as a way to break the game up into 6 chapters.
Do you hear me, Snake? We are the sons of the boss.
I see it! The fear!
A great and terrible fury at being alive.
A host of sorrows.
Again, quick editor's note, I say there's 6, but I only show 5 there because the boss is counted as one of them. She's known as the Joy. Whatever. When you're fighting the Sorrow, Snake is directly confronted by the people he's killed throughout the game. And these defeated enemies are shown as ghost-like figures walking towards Snake.
I'm burning! It burns!
This shows a very obvious metaphor of PTSD and how soldiers are haunted by the lives that they end.
So sad. A host of sorrows. And you are one of them.
Metal Gear is ironically anti-war, but its context is war itself. That's why I think it is such a good criticism of the military. And through a lot of its underlying messaging, shows war and the military not to be something to be celebrated by national holidays, but something to be condemned to the highest degree. But I think what's so good about it is it shows you all of this from the perspective of the victim, the person that is being played by the system and called back again and again and again to fight for a country that doesn't care about their well-being or them as a person. This happens in all the games, with both Naked and Solid Snake being ripped out of their retirement to fight for something them as a person don't necessarily believe in, but it's what their government deems necessary.
They can't go home. They've only got 2 options. Heaven or hell. No. Tape's rolling, boss.
And let's be real, it's not like in real life, veterans and people who are victims of the system are treated any differently.
Boss, you only need one snake. No. The world would be better off without snakes.
Corporal Shepard, we meet at last. Please don't think that I've been avoiding you. A great many matters require my attention in these troubled times.
Half-Life, released in 1998, is a sci-fi first-person shooter that follows theoretical physicist Gordon Freeman as he navigates a disaster unfolding at the top-secret Black Mesa research facility, with the series of games being very heavy on the military representation, with said first game having you fight the military cover-up team, as well as the second game having a brutal alien dictatorship that is very similar in themes to the Nazi regime during World War II.
Damn the Combine. This is what happens to you if you resist. Or if you're just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
But when it comes to military representation, the Half-Life 1 expansion, Opposing Force, is one that sticks out the most. In the game, you play as Adrian Shepard, a soldier that is going into the Black Mesa facility blind as a member of the cover-up team. Go and kill the aliens so the world don't find out that aliens exist. But the helicopter that he was in gets shot down before he reaches the facility and ends up stranded before he gets his orders. sets off a chain reaction of him not knowing he has to kill the workers of Black Mesa, and instead thinks he is there to help them. Shepard is mostly a bystander to the devastation the military causes to the facility. Adrian Shepard does not have a fleshed out character whatsoever, and he follows the prominent trend of silent protagonists that the Half-Life series had been following up until that point. So, his reactions to the events that are unfolding in front of him are entirely up to the player.
I've never seen that species before.
It's okay, sir. I can take him.
No!
Half-Life Opposing Force was coming off the back of the original Half-Life, which released a year earlier, which already had set up the military as brutal, tough enemies that the original protagonist had to fight. I'm not sure if it fully translates there, because there was no audio in that clip, but that scene is a scientist running up to a member of the military going, "Oh my god, thank god you've saved us," to then be blown to pieces. So while we are now viewing them from an insider perspective, they aren't shown as to be any less brutal. The developer, Gearbox, represents the military as mere grunts who get off on killing. The soldiers are used as a device to move the story forward, rather than having any explicit connotations about the real-world military, and seems to follow similar character stereotypes from films like Full Metal Jacket.
Sound off like you got a pair! Corporal Shepard, huh? Looks more like Corporal Dog Meat to me!
People have not given Private Pyle the proper motivation!
But this time, without the depth and further meaning to it. Unlike Call of Duty and Metal Gear Solid, Opposing Force isn't a realistic representation of the military, and is just a story that utilizes the army as a character. So, whilst the military are portrayed throughout the game as the bad guys, this is more a caricature of other representations of the military. The graphics in Opposing Force aren't hyper-real as they are in Call of Duty, and as well as the sci-fi plot makes the actions of the military seem less real and connect less to the real-world military. That's all I really have to say about Opposing Force. The representations of the military are rather unproblematic and less talked about than others, and compared to the others, sits fairly neutral on its opinion on the military, especially compared to the two more polarizing games I'm talking about in comparison.
Snami Ball. Remember, no Russian.
Let's split up.
Call of Duty, I'm sure, requires no introduction, but for whatever reason you don't know, Call of Duty is a first-person shooter that was first released in 2003 by the American company Infinity Ward, but received its mass popularity with their 2000 release, Call of Duty Modern Warfare. That was the first original Modern Warfare games, but there's been a bunch of them, all called like the same thing, so yeah. And since then, has become a household name. The developers of Call of Duty insist that the game isn't political and doesn't have an opinion on Modern Warfare.
I don't think it's a political game.
Really?
But the thing is that people read into that in different ways, right?
Like that's a tough, like, what do you mean by political?
That doesn't mean anything, right?
Still, the game uses real guns, real places, and always assumes that the Western forces are the ones in the right, providing protagonists with a plethora of Russian, Middle Eastern, Chinese, and Korean soldiers to villainize and plow down with an AR-15. Call of Duty also dangerously misrepresents real-life events, skewing them in-game to make America and the West look better than they actually are. The most glaringly obvious example is when Modern Warfare 2019 shows a version of the 1991 Iraq Gulf War, where Russians bombed tens of thousands of retreating Iraqi soldiers and civilians. However, the real-life scenario it was based on had America dropping the bombs on the retreating forces instead. This shows a clear bias and a disturbing misrepresentation of America and how they went against the conventions of war. In the same game, a member of a terrorist group that is fighting over land against the Russians uses chemical warfare against them.
Yes! And now we send it back to the Russians!
Listen to me. I stole the gas from the Russians. To help us. Only to help us.
Later in the game, he is berated, shamed, and killed for his actions.
We're taking you.
Wait! I'm not your enemy!
I know where the gas is made. I have the location.
This is Barkov's chemical factory.
Yes, I'm taking it down. We're still on the same side, Captain.
All right, this.
Whereas Captain Price, the main character of the series, commits similar tragedies across all of the games. And instead of his actions being labelled as an inhuman or a war crime, instead, he is said to be a man who can make tough decisions.
She was going for a bloody detonator.
Good job we dropped it in.
We made the right calls.
At your house.
That benefits the greater good. Like when he nukes Washington off the face of the earth. Like, gone. With no repercussions, and again, is just labelled a man that can make the hard decision. Call of Duty is created from a very obviously Western perspective, with its intended audience being the same. The original Modern Warfare games pandered to post-9/11 patriotism, and intentionally or not, drummed up support for the war in the Middle East that was happening at the time. The games are widely received across the Western world because of that pandering, and despite the developers' best efforts to make Call of Duty a non-political game, they have clear biases on the way that they are representing the military. That have drastic effects on the way that people perceive the real-world army and their actions.
With a good night's sleep, let's talk about dead people. I mean, dead people. The dead don't feel honor, they don't feel that brave, they don't feel events, they're lucky if they got graves. Call your dead mother, ask her when she died.